Previously, in part 1 of our Titanic series, we explored the grandeur of the ship's design, the excitement of its first voyage, the confidence that it was unsinkable. We saw how over 2,000 passengers, from ordinary travelers to the world's wealthiest, stepped aboard for what was meant to be a historic journey. But behind the luxury and optimism, small mistakes and hidden dangers were already setting the stage for one of history's greatest tragedies. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, we recommend starting there before continuing so you don't miss any of the story. Now, let's begin part 2. Staying in contact with other ships. Titanic had already covered nearly half of its journey when, on April 12, 1912, it received its first iceberg warning from the French ocean liner Le Turin. Wireless operator Jack Phillips relayed this message to Captain Smith, but the warning was not taken seriously, and the ship's speed was not reduced. Titanic continued at full pace. Inside, the atmosphere was festive. Passengers were enjoying themselves in their own ways. The crew was busy with their duties, and Captain Smith remained optimistic about reaching New York on schedule. Everything on the surface seemed perfect, because below deck, more than 150 firemen were working tirelessly, shoveling coal into the furnaces to keep the massive engines running. Everything appeared normal, and Titanic had completed 4 days of its maiden voyage without any obstacles. But as April 14th began, the ship received a total of 7 iceberg warnings, one after another, all cautioning of ice ahead. While the presence of icebergs in that region was not unusual, receiving so many warnings in quick succession deeply concerned wireless operator Jack Phillips. His worry stemmed from the ship's speed. This was Titanic's first voyage, and traveling at such high speed through an ice-prone area was extremely risky. Phillips wasted no time and promptly informed Captain Smith of each warning. However, the speed of the Titanic was still not reduced. Adding to this, the chairman of the White Star Line, Joseph Bruce Ismay, was also on board during this maiden voyage. It is believed that when Captain Smith informed Bruce about the iceberg warnings and suggested reducing the ship's speed, Bruce flatly refused. He did not want the Titanic to arrive late in New York because of the iceberg warnings. Though Captain Smith did consider the series of warnings, and at 5:05 p.m. on April 14th, he altered the ship's route slightly southward. He did not reduce the speed at all. The Titanic, still moving at full pace, now entered the darkness of night. Unfortunately, there was no moon that evening, leaving the sea shrouded in pitch black. In such low visibility, lookout men Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, stationed in the crow's nest without binoculars, could barely see anything ahead. This was not their only difficulty. The bone-chilling cold made things worse. Their eyes watered from the freezing winds, making it nearly impossible to spot anything clearly in the dark ocean. At 10:05 p.m. on April 14th, Titanic received its 9th and final iceberg warning via wireless. This message came from the ship SS Californian, sent by its wireless operator, Cyril Evans. At that moment, 2 ships were only a few kilometers apart. So when the signal reached Titanic's wireless operator Jack Phillips, it came through his ears with a loud, sharp crackle. Phillips was already frustrated by the constant stream of iceberg warnings and the lack of any action being taken. Now, receiving yet another urgent warning from the Californian only made him angrier. In irritation, he snapped at Evans, cut off the connection, and went back to sending passengers personal messages. Phillips never passed this information on to the bridge crew. The Californian's warning had clearly stated that massive icebergs blocked their way forward, forcing the ship to halt for the night. Phillips had no idea that if he had relayed this message to Captain Smith, and if Titanic too had decided to pause its journey for the night. If only Titanic had stopped that night, just like the Californian ship, history might have been written very differently. Instead of being remembered as the greatest maritime disaster, Titanic would have been celebrated as a triumph of engineering and safety. But fate had already sealed its course. About 35 minutes after receiving the final warning, at exactly 11:30 p.m., Titanic was racing forward through the pitch-black ocean. In the crow's nest, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee kept their eyes fixed ahead, straining to spot any danger. Without binoculars, with only faint starlight, freezing winds cutting across their faces, and their eyes watering from the cold, it was nearly impossible to see clearly. Then, just 9 minutes later, at 11:39 p.m., Frederick suddenly spotted something massive looming directly ahead. It was a giant iceberg. nearly 400 feet long and rising more than 100 feet high, about the size of an entire football field. The sight was terrifying. Frederick instantly rang the alarm bell 3 times and telephoned 6th Officer James Paul Moody with the chilling words, "Iceberg right ahead." Moody immediately relayed the message to 1st Officer William Murdoch. The entire crew jumped into action. On Murdoch's orders, the engines were thrown into full reverse, and the great ship was steered hard to the left in a desperate attempt to turn away. But Titanic was simply too fast, too massive, and the distance far too short. The very qualities that made Titanic a marvel of engineering, her size, her speed, her immense power, had now become her deadliest flaws. Despite the crew's frantic efforts, the maneuver only partly succeeded. The ship veered, but not enough. At 11:40 p.m., just 1 minute later, Titanic's starboard bow scraped violently against the iceberg. The collision sent a shudder through the entire vessel. Passengers felt the jolt, crewmen froze in alarm, and history's most infamous disaster had just begun. The impact shook everyone on board. Titanic's much-praised double-bottom hull was of no use here, because the collision had not been head-on, was along the side. And along the sides, there was only a single layer of protection. When Titanic's designer, Thomas Andrews, surveyed the damage, he made a chilling discovery. 6 of the ship's watertight compartments had been breached, and water was pouring in at an alarming rate. Captain Smith was stunned. Titanic had been built to withstand flooding in up to 4 compartments, but with 6 filling rapidly, the unsinkable ship was now doomed. Andrews told the captain they had no more than 1 to 2 hours before Titanic would be swallowed by the sea. Inside the ship, the collision had already woken hundreds of sleeping passengers. 20 minutes had passed since the iceberg strike, and panic was beginning to spread as water surged through the lower decks. The once unshakable confidence in Titanic's invincibility was giving way to a haunting realization. The ship could sink at any moment. By midnight, Captain Smith gave the order to send distress signals. Radio operator Jack Phillips tapped out urgent calls for help, hoping that nearby ships could come to their rescue. But even as the signals went out, the situation grew dire. The 6 breached compartments were now completely flooded, and water was spilling onto the decks, pushing further and further into the vessel. Crew members worked desperately, trying to pump water out of the compartments. But the numbers told the truth. Within just 45 minutes of the collision, 13,500 long tons of seawater had surged inside. All of Titanic's powerful pumps combined could remove only 1,700 tons per hour. It was hopeless. The crew knew this, yet they fought on, pumping and bailing in a futile struggle against the ocean. Meanwhile, Phillips kept hammering out distress signals into the night. Above deck, the order was given to start lowering the lifeboats, but fate had one more cruel twist. Titanic, the grandest and most expensive ship in the world, carried only 20 lifeboats. Some could hold up to 65 people, but there were nowhere near enough for the 2,200 souls on board. And so, as chaos unfolded aboard the Titanic, the crew rushed to launch the lifeboats, knowing there weren't nearly enough for everyone. Fear and confusion spread across the decks as passengers began to realize the terrible truth. The great ship was sinking. This is where we will pause for now. In the next part of this series, we'll see how the evacuation began. The choices that sealed the fate of so many in the final desperate hours of the Titanic. If you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. The next episode will be out very soon. And so, as chaos unfolded aboard the Titanic, the crew rushed to launch the lifeboats, knowing there weren't nearly enough for everyone. Fear and confusion spread across the decks as passengers began to realize the terrible truth. The great ship was sinking. This is where we will pause for now. In the next part of this series, we'll see how the evacuation began. The choices that sealed the fate of so many and the final desperate hours of the Titanic. If you don't want to miss it, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications. The next episode will be out very soon.